It is day 268 of heroic resistance of Ukraine. This is Natalia Staroprava, Медіацентру Ukraine. I want to invite Serhii Kurylo, Deputy Chief of Staff, Head of the Department for Border Control Organization of the 7th Carpathian Border Detachment. Could you please tell us more about the situation at checkpoints in Lviv region? Good afternoon. Under martial law, the situation at the border of Ukraine has changed significantly. We have more attempts to cross the state border. I'm talking about the men liable for military service who tried uh, to enter the cross-border territory. Then, if to talk about such breaches of the state border, mainly these were the citizens of Africa, Asia, and other countries. Also, if to talk about our border detachment, we detained for the attempt to violate the state border 107 Ukrainians and 53 foreign migrants. Also, there were detainments when there were attempts to transport some goods, namely tobacco, to stabilize the situation to counteract such violations at the state border. The border detachment is scaling up its effort to counteract such attempts, and also to have additional infrastructure set up, cording off some areas which pose a danger. We also have increased control for the border. Additionally, we have law enforcement bodies of Lviv region. We work actively with settlements close to the border areas to monitor the situation. We also have inspections of motels, hostels, and train stations. We have additional checkpoints in some areas where border guards they work together with law enforcement representatives. We also have awareness raising campaigns and information campaigns with residents of settlements close to border areas, with taxi drivers, with other drivers. We work together with our counterparts from border services and from the police. We continue monitoring the line of the state border, also the territory adjacent to these territories. And as I mentioned, if we talk about some areas which pose a danger, we try to provide additional infrastructure which would make impossible crossing the border at some other places rather than checkpoints. Also, we continue monitoring border. We use aviation forces. We also have additional training for our staff. As of now, we have annual joint trainings of border representatives and also representatives of police. I also want to invite Ivan Baran, Deputy Chief of Staff, Head of the Department for Border Control Organization of the 7th Carpathian Border Detachment. Mr. Baran, could you tell us more about the situation with persons who violate the state border crossing and they want to leave the country violating the law? I just want to support everything which has been mentioned by the colleague as far as full-scale invasion of Russia in Ukraine. Under martial law, we have increased passenger traffic. Well, during the first month, there were more people leaving Ukraine, and as of now, the situation is more or less stabilized, and I can share with you the results of border guards' work comparable to the previous year. We have, during this year, 11,110,000 persons crossed the border which is 1.6 times more as compared to the year 2022, 2 million 200,000 vehicles crossed. And it means that there is quite a significant change as compared to the previous year. 25,000 persons were refused entry, which is 3.5 times more as compared to the previous year. We have 4,606 violations registered, and we also have penalties, which are 2.5 times more as compared to the previous year. If to talk about falsified documents, we had 244 cases, that is 22 times more. Also, there were some cases using documents belonging to other persons. And if to talk about persons without documents, we also have quite a significant increase of such cases here. If to talk about checkpoints of our region, of Lviv region, 122 units of weapons were extracted, 7.5 kilograms of drug substances, 1,777 psychotropic substances, and also goods for more than 85 million hryvnias, and it amounts to a 5-time increase comparable to the previous year. I also want to inform that in 77 cases this month we had falsified documents, and briefly about the categories of some documents exposed at our border. 78 cases, then 16 of them medical documents, 8 pension documents, temporary military documents, 26 documents, migration service 2 cases, birth certificate 4 cases, also some business trip documents 4 cases, about document on subsidies 2 cases, and also there was 1 case of a person holding a document of a person with a disability. So we have very clear regulations of the Ministry of the Cabinet of Ministers, and each time if there are any changes in these documents, our forces are being informed about that. That is why our main goal is to make sure that we do not have any cases of people violating the state border crossing, and also to prevent people leaving the country using falsified documents. What about some trends? If to talk about the past months, when the war broke out, if you talk about February and March, that was a critical exit, and together with our colleagues from the Republic of Poland, we make sure that it was possible for our citizens to leave the country on foot. And actually, as of now, it is less relevant, this type of border crossing checkpoints. That is why we know what the situation is, and we know that there are more people who are returning to Ukraine. There is a bigger influx of people entering, and that is why we try to make sure that we do everything possible to keep situation under control. I also wanted to remind you that our journalists have a possibility to ask questions, to address questions to our guests. If there are no questions, could you tell us more about the rules for crossing the border at checkpoints? What are the documents which are required, and who can cross the border? As I've already clearly mentioned, that all the rules for crossing the state border, they are contained in the regulations of the cabinet of ministry. Everything is clearly stipulated there, the categories of persons and the documents that they should have on them. Because if I start mentioning all of that, that will take a lot of time, and you have everything mentioned in these documents, the nature of these documents, everything is mentioned in the documents. So could you tell us more about the lines? Maybe people have to wait for a long time, and do you expect to have such a lines? Well, if to compare it to the period which we had starting, well, since the 21st of February, there were 30-kilometer lines. But now we can see that we have some traffic of vehicles when I talk about weekends and also some national holidays. In the future, we expect more Ukrainian citizens returning, those who left the country, those who work abroad, especially when we talk about weekends and well, Christmas and other holidays. There will be people returning, and well, that is to be expected. We had a large-scale destruction of critical infrastructure. We know that we have some problem with power supplies. What is the level of preparedness of checkpoints? What are you going to do under such circumstances? Well, as of now, all our checkpoints in Lviv region, they are fully operational without any interruptions. We didn't have we haven't had any interruptions or some critical breaks when we talk about border crossing of vehicles. So what are the conclusions that you can draw for this month, and what are you getting ready for? What are your future plans? Well, we expect more Ukrainian citizens returning for the weekend and well, New Year, Christmas holidays. In general, checkpoints and other services, they are ready to respond to any emergencies, any situations which emerge. Thank you. Today we had with us Serhii Kurylo, Deputy Chief of Staff, Head of the Department for Border Control Organization of the 7th Carpathian Border Detachment, Ivan Baran, Deputy Chief of Staff, Head of the Department for Border Control Organization of the 7th Carpathian Border Detachment. Thank you for this conversation. Thank you for working with us. Stay with